so much gloom hiding the reality. It's just a beautiful day. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. It's just it's a beautiful day. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. It's just yeah. Take a look into the sky. Take a look into the sky.
Look in the sky.
Keep your head up high.
High. Keep your head high.
Take a look into the sky.
A very nice, chilled out and relaxed vibe as we settle in on this Friday afternoon, and a gorgeous one at that, the final Friday of 2017 here at Gulfstream Park with Acacia Courtney and Jason Blewett. And it's great to have you with us as we settle in for another extended day, kicking off a little earlier than usual. 11 races will get underway a little afternoon following a return to the races here yesterday, where I think we saw a little bit of everything.
Yes, we did. And just for some updates as far as the finale yesterday, according to his agent, Bryce sought the Misael Jaramillo to be released from the hospital today. Amazingly, no serious injuries sustained. So definitely keeping him in our thoughts and prayers. He is off all of his mount today, but again, thankfully, no serious injuries.
Yes, obviously a freak ending to yesterday's card, the Rainbow Six, Misael's horse cryogenic, ducking in, ducking out, and Misael losing his balance, and rightfully so, just mere yards from the finish line. It was one of those freak things. So the Rainbow Six carryover does live to fight another day, and we're glad Misael is doing okay, and happy to hear that he's just sore, and we look forward to him joining us soon here at Gulfstream Park. The day began, however, on much smoother, calmer waters, and that's centered around the returning Jose Ortiz, likely a big favorite to be crowned champion jockey. And Acacia, you caught up with him moments after he got his first race and his first win right back in the saddle.
Standing by with Jose Ortiz, your first mount back, your first win after knee surgery. How did it feel to be back aboard?
It feels great. I mean, every time you come back with a winner, it feels great. My knee feels really good. I'm really happy about it. It was pretty easy, to be honest. I got surgery December 5th. December 6th was a Wednesday. It was the only day off that I had. And Thursday I started hitting the bicycle for at least like 3 days. And then the doctor told me I could get in the equicizer at home. I started riding the equicizer every day, as long as I could. Put the races on the TV, ride every race. I was riding a lot, so until it feel better. Now I feel really good and I'm happy. I mean, I was off at home, but I was every day. I print the program from Gulfstream because I was riding. I was supposed to ride in Gulfstream, so I was following the horses that I think I could ride or whatever. But I did my homework. See a lot of horses running good. Probably I want to ride back, and my agent also does. He did his own homework also, and I think we looking forward for have a successful meet.
So the man did his homework while being on the sidelines, and obviously it didn't take Jose all that long. In fact, less than a month to get back after that minor left knee surgery. And his last race, when you consider it was December 3rd at Aqueduct up in New York, and he rode here yesterday. It's pretty remarkable for a rider who now has 267 wins on the year and has banked more than $27.1 million in purses.
It's pretty incredible, and I loved hearing what he was saying about how he would get on the equicizer, watch the races happening at Gulfstream, and try to act like he was riding the race and how he would let it play out. So he certainly, as you said, did his homework, and we're thrilled to have him here during this year's championship meet, one of, I think, the most talented riders up and coming as well.
With a great attitude and a terrific personality, and much like his older brother, Erad, no ego whatsoever. They're happy to be here. They love the game. They love the ride, and it's a pleasure watching Jose Ortiz and Erad, for that matter, do their thing out there with this world-class, talented jockey colony. Now, switching gears and getting on to another top-class contender, and very talented, I might add. You're on Beat the Expert today.
Well, thank you, thank you. Yes, it is Beat the Expert Day, and I'm up. We have 11 races today, so you can go to our Facebook page. You have until first post. So as Jason said, that's noon, so you have about an hour to get your picks in. It's free to play. Use our hashtag Beat the Expert. Let us know that you're playing. If you pick more winners than me, you could get one of those great polo shirts. But more than anything, anything, it's just a lot of fun.
It's always a good time. We love seeing everybody get excited and maybe talk a little smack if their horses are running well early on, midway through the card. So keep us up to speed and give us a follow throughout social media. Acacia, Ron, myself, Pete Aiello, and Gulfstream Park as well on Twitter and Facebook. Now, as far as the carryovers as to what's on tap, we have our opening of 2 carryovers kicking off in race number 1. Pretty competitive 2-year-old $50,000 maiden claimer on the turf, in which we have 12,000. That's a pretty big high five carryover to start the day.
That's going to get very well bet, I think, and it's a really nice maiden $50,000 race on the turf to start things off, so keep an eye out for that. It also does kick off our early pick 5, and then, as Jason said, the Rainbow 6 does live to fight another day, just shy of $450,000 this afternoon.
Yep, and to suggest anything other than a freak sort of accident and incident went on in yesterday's last race here at Gulfstream is very irresponsible and very careless. And again, we're glad the parties involved, the horse Cryogenic and Amisel Jaramillo, are okay there. So we'll chase that for about $450K. In the kitty, the late pick 5 rings out the final major multi-race wager on the card, and that jump starts in race number 7. Now, this is a stakeless Friday here as this extended New Year's Eve weekend gets underway at Gulfstream, but we do have a very intriguing 3rd race on tap, one that might actually springboard and launch the number 3 Singing Bullet into the $16 million Pegasus. More on that momentarily, but why don't we begin? Because you're up and beat the expert. Let's win beat the expert and take down this early pick 5.
I like it. That sounds good. So here's my ticket as we start things off. We have 2 horses I'm going to use in race number 1. You have Hey Howie making a second Gulfstream start, and Geo Lemon coming in from New York for trainer Bill Mott. I'm going to single Mr. Kisses in race number 2. I thought he was the horse to beat already on the speed and dropping in class. He will pick up Jose Ortiz this afternoon with Amisel Jaramillo off of his mounts. And as we said, Singing Bullet, will he be going on to the Pegasus? Now, it's a small field, but it is a very strong field, that's for sure. And I think it's kind of one of those races that you just never know what can happen. Wouldn't be surprised at all to just see Singing Bullet, who's kind of an up-and-comer, just blast away from the rest of the field. So a lot will be answered in the 3rd race this afternoon, using 2 horses in Vortex Road and Hope's Roar in race number 4. And then I'm going to use 3 horses in the 5th race. I'm really interested in what we will see from the Argentinian horse Cacho Ndie off of the layoff for trainer Bill Mott. $24 for me.
And he's off a near 700-day layoff. Obviously had a lot of success in his limited starts, but went 3 for 3 in his native Argentina, including a Group 1 victory some 692 days ago. We'll see how he does. He'll have to hold off, you would think. If he's going to be a sharp horse off the layoff, he's going to have to run against March off his own lengthy layoff off a trainer change to Jonathan Thomas. But again, the day begins with race 1. We've got Jose Ortiz subbing for Amisel on the number 4, Hey Howie. So we say...
I believe that one's Nick Juarez, actually.
Oh, Nick Juarez. Yes, you are 100% right. Thank you for that. I wrote that down incorrectly. And as far as Nick being aboard the number 4, Hey Howie, what about a horse who's coming out of a beaten effort at 7-5, wired by a Todd Pletcher firster who paid about $30 here on December 8th?
I think that's probably the most amazing part of the race, that Todd Pletcher paid $30. But we will show you this. And Hey Howie had a lot of trouble early on, and we're going to pick it up here going into the first turn. He's the number 4 along the rail. Pretty easy to spot in those yellow and red silks, and unfortunately just gets any of his momentum just really shut off early on. And there, as you can see right there, if we can just freeze it, the jockey kind of had to sit down in the saddle, and he was shuffled back. That was Amisel Jaramillo in the saddle that day as we pick it up from there. So shuffled back, had his momentum cut off early on. And then he did end up closing very wide after he really lost all of that momentum. He's stuck behind a wall of horses at this point. And again, if we can just freeze it, there he goes out pretty much widest of all, as you have these horses having a much easier trip along the inside as we let it go down to the wire. Big race from him in his first start locally. I do think he meets a couple other strong contenders today, though.
That's the whole thing that jumped off the page at me, at least in theory, in my mind. I think, although he ran well in the context of his trip here, I'm not in love with this race in terms of perhaps being a live race that he exits. And I think there are some new shooters, be it first-time turfers or horses shipping in from out of town, who may make this field in today's first a little deeper and a little tougher than the race that he exits out of for trainer Nick Gonzalez. And one of the reasons I picked against him is the presence of our top horse, the number 5, Gio Lemon, who, to be honest, I think he's just coming out of a solid race up in the Big Apple, and we've already seen a Gulfstream Park maiden winner for Carlos Martin drop out of that November 24th race that Gio Lemon's coming out of.
A great point. It has already proved to be a good race. This is 2-year-old by Gio Ponti. There's turf pedigree on the bottom side and the siblings, and just the third time out was drawn far outside in his 2 starts up in New York. And for a trainer that does take a bit more of a patient approach, and you just have to imagine he's only going to continue to improve.
Absolutely. A couple of J-breds in the mix as well, with Tirabashi from post 2, Meyerhoffen from post 3, and in fact, Tirabashi, a Jersey bred by Girolamo, is my second horse in the mix for trainer Graham Motion, making his turf debut this afternoon and first out of Jersey. And it's good to have, aside from having Jose Ortiz back, we get Joel Rosario off a little December freshening, and he's back with us today.
Yes, he is, and has quite a few calls on Saturday as well for some big Chad Brown horses, among others. And good to see the Isabel de Tomaso Silks present as well.
Oh, no doubt. And she's got the J-breds, that flag flying in full effect. All right, let's move on to race number 2. This is a very salty 12-5 claimer. I really had, in a way, chuckle at just how tough some of these open claimers, even at the lower levels, have come up thus far during this championship meet. Well, you've got horses who have compiled pretty solid lifetime resumes, and in fact, a couple of old stablemates facing one another on the outside in the form of the 6, Mr. Kisses, as Acacia and I like that 5-6. I hope you have a big Friday and beat the expert. Evidently, we like the same horses. It's a cold double for you and me to start the card with Mr. Kisses on top, and he'll face his former stablemate, the number 7, Be a Hero, who's now with trainer Ralph Nix.
And I think more than anything, the drop for Mr. Kisses is really going to be key. He's got quite a bit of early speed. He did win at this level at Monmouth. And I just remember him last year in 2016 when he was with Dave Brady, and the way that he ran behind Awesome Banner in the Florida Sire Stakes, that's what really first turned me on to how incredibly game this horse is. And he's just been as solid and as consistent really for this level that you could ask. And he does come out of a tougher race at Gulfstream Park West. It also was productive in that Mo Cash came back to win a stake with an 83 Beyer speed figure, successful native, got an 86 next time out. So I think he's just faced good competition, and he's in the right spot.
Now, we got to give a little respect and some acknowledgement to the 5, Coxon, who I did not put second. I tried to split our top pick, Mr. Kisses, and Coxon in that exacta, and perhaps a win is a little out of reach in the ability department from the one in my father's image. But he's got a couple of things going for him today, aside from the fact, 3, if you include the fact that he's going to be an outrageous price in here because he's taking that big jump in class. First things first, trainer Alan Mirage does a good job, and he's had a solid, consistent campaign with this 7-year-old by Curlin, and he's done really well on these quick turnarounds with a limited sample size. But the fact that a barn like this is 4 for 17 with this move, I'm viewing that as a major positive. And what really won me over is he will be the first horse coming back who competed here last weekend, in fact, Saturday and Sunday. And I'm not some crazy bias monger, but those were main tracks that were carrying speed all day long, and this horse really had a tough task, chasing wide throughout. A pretty good effort. He's my price play in the second. But getting back to Coxon, you just got to love this horse because he's so honest.
You do, and you're absolutely right. We did see quite a bit of pace being carried on the inside in particular. It has evened out. All in all, I would say being up close is really still where you want to be on both surfaces.
Way more even and fair, though, the last couple of cards.
It is more even than what you saw on Saturday and Sunday. That does bode well for Coxon as well, as he is the kind of horse that likes to be involved early on in the race, not a need-the-lead type. But I did think with the drop in class, he was over his head in the rapid transit last time. But before that, he was just winning up a storm. And even his race and starter allowance company at Gulfstream Park West, I thought was good enough to perform well in here.
Pretty amazing. Soon-to-be 6-year-old by Awesome Again, who's only run, what, 13 times throughout his career? In fact, 6 for 13. And, yeah, just a very honest horse. Shares some similarities with Social Roy, who was one of the stars on yesterday's Thursday's card at Gulfstream Park, winning for the 4th consecutive time. Let's move on to our featured third race. This will go as the West Point Thoroughbreds featured third on the afternoon, a high-price $75,000 optional claimer. And we do stretch out and go the 2 turns on the main at a mile and a 16th. And do keep in mind, this is a first finish line race. And as far as tactics, these are races for the most part. I think early speed is a very good commodity to have. And in fact, we saw that here, claiming Crown Day in the day's centerpiece, the jewel in which, wow, did Paco Lopez ride perfectly on Flowers for Lisa.
Yes, and I wanted to show that race and start coming out of the gate because I was actually, we're going to pick it up at the quarter pole, actually. I thought Paco just kind of hustled this horse out of the gate, crossed over, and as we let it go from here, the way it went from breaking outside, the trip that he gave this horse, and honestly, on the inside, Diamond Bachelor ran a huge race as well. It really was kind of what you saw on opening day. These horses were up close throughout the whole afternoon, but the way Flowers for Lisa had been hustled across to get that early position early on from the outside post, I thought was incredibly impressive.
Yeah, there was very little movement from the back of the pack in that race and even mid-pack. So he got a great ride, Flowers for Lisa, but today might be a different scenario and a different situation altogether. Not to mention, although in the numbers department it's a much smaller field, in terms of quality over quantity, I think this race really exemplifies that statement. It's a tougher race here for Flowers for Lisa. Now, Singing Bullet's got to get some discussion here, as it's kind of neat in a way. 2 horses who have been primarily Kentucky horses, and even a little New York there for Singing Bullet. They are rematching Singing Bullet and Rich Daddy after running 1-2 and having a tight photo, in fact, ahead, separating them last time they faced each other on November 2nd.
Yes, that was a very good race, I thought, from both of them. And in fact, it'll be a bit of a rematch as well between Singing Bullet and Conquest Windy City, who faced each other last time out. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Singing Bullet, if he performs well today, could be a potential horse, as he is owned by Stronach Stables, to head into the Pegasus World Cup. And reading some statements from trainer Dale Romans, he said this was a horse they had really expected a lot from at the age of 2, and he's kind of really finding his stride now that he's a 3-year-old. But they're saying that he's kind of shown up in every way that they had hoped, and especially last time out, it looks like he's getting into that good form they wanted to see.
And he'll be in the race early on, you would think, with Flowers for Lisa and the 5, Conquest Windy City, who I am hoping can pull off the upset and fire a big effort here off the claim for Mike Maker. He won't be far behind, and he's got Jose Ortiz, who can certainly prep and ride a race and get himself in the right frame of mind like very few can, and it's pretty incredible. He's only 24 years old. And I'll tell you what, I've been riding Mike Maker here as far as his recent horses at Gulfstream. And until he says, dude, stop picking my horses, I am going to be a VIP, as I said in my analysis. I am a proud VIP card-carrying member of the Mike Maker fan club. And 2 turns, a better fit, I think, for this son of Tisnow, who's coming out of a 1-turn mile race at Churchill against Singing Bullet.
He does have a good record at this distance for sure, and as you said, the fact that he picks up Jose Ortiz, I think, is definitely a plus. And we do have to give a little mention to the 4 Rich Daddy with the first finish line race last time. He actually galloped out far past the winner in the Iron Horse last time, so I thought it was a good race from him, and there's no reason he couldn't run well again today.
No, he is a snug fit in a race. I mean, you've got 5 ready to roll. I mean, Joshua's Comprise looks way in over his head, but you can make a strong case for the other 4, hence the fact you used all 4 in your early pick 5. Don't think I didn't notice that. All right, 4th on the afternoon. We move off our West Point 3rd race on the day as we get on to this 3-and-up Filly-O-Mare 3 lifetime claimer, a 2-turn mile, and another replay to get to. In fact, we'll do that in the 5th, rather. Bossiada's got a chance, a major rider change. Definitely note Luca Panici getting on board. Bossiada from post number 2. That horse is not without a big chance today. However, George Abreu has Hope's Roar shipping in from New York, and this horse, I could see a lot of people just standing alone with this horse in the early 5 and early pick 4.
I could too. I ended up using Vortex Road and just thinking that this was a horse who'd been consistent in addition to Hope's Roar. But Hope's Roar, I think, on the drop and shipping in is the one to beat.
Yeah, I could see this race really being all about Hope's Roar and how does this New York bred by Roaring Fever compete and run, shipping back down to Florida. But again, do not sell that rider change on Bossiata short, as Leo Gabriel does a good job. Doesn't saddle that many horses. He's not going to give you 1,000 starters a year, but he's a very good trainer who's done some good things here in South Florida. Now, the 5th race on the afternoon, we continue to turf as we cash out this early 5, and we do so with a good-looking and kind of co-feature here in the sequence, a $62,000 high-priced allowance optional claimer in which we have the belated return. In fact, various layoffs really take center stage in a way in this race. You had already mentioned, Acacia, at the top of the show, the rail horse from Argentina who hasn't run as a Group 1 winner in about 700 days. And then we have March, who frustratingly was just buried inside. You talk about Johnny V in a race we'll show you now, doing everything right, saving every inch of ground in a short field, and getting skunked because there was just nowhere to go.
Exactly right. He saved ground along the rail and, as you said, did everything right. You had Ballad Rocks was the number 2 who was closing on the outside. And I remember in January, Ron had been trying to get Ballad Rocks home for like 4 starts. And I think that that was a Mott horse on the upswing. And unfortunately, with these smaller fields on the turf, right here in the red cap, March has nowhere to go. And this is exactly what happens when they clump up together and there's just absolutely no hope. And I think that unfortunately March just didn't really have anything to work with there. I do think that he has to kind of step up in here, and he doesn't meet the easiest field for the return. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see him come back and win, but I do need off the layoff to see a little bit more from him.
I understand. He is going to be favored unless there's some crazy story on the Mott horse that he's an absolute monster. March will go favored in this race off that lengthy layoff, and I won't argue with anybody that says, look, he's a nice little horse. He's a graded stakes winner on the dirt, but the truth of the matter is he's no longer Chad Brown, even though he's with a terrific young trainer and Jonathan Thomas. He hasn't run in a long time, and the kicker, he's still winless on the turf, whereas everybody else in this race, at least the main players, are multiple winners on the turf, and that includes Jose Ortiz with the 7 final copy for Hall of Famer Roger Atfield, who clearly the horses he has shipped south from Toronto at Woodbine have meant business at 2 for 3.
Yeah, he's 2 for 3 here, and the other one finished in the money. So he's not sending down just for fun. The horses that he is sending to Gulfstream are,
Winter
I think,
Holiday?
Oh, yeah, just
Beach?
coming for vacation. And Final Copy does have a little bit more recency coming out of graded stakes competition. Keeneland and Laurel, stakes winner on the turf at Woodbine. Not to mention, I love the work tab on the Payson Park turf course.
All right, ready to roll. Jose Ortiz with the mount. We'll see. I am dying to hear what you have to say about a soon-to-be 6-year-old in Cacho and DA. Cat, what does that mean?
I don't know, actually. We'll have to look it up.
Give us a tweet. Sign up, play her and beat the expert. Give us a tweet. Let us know what the Argentinian horse means in English. And sit tight. We've got a lot more coming your way here on this Friday edition of Gulfstream Today.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Oh, baby, make your plans. Come on out to beautiful Gulfstream Park and join us throughout this entire New Year's Eve weekend as we say goodbye to 2017 and hello 2018. Jason and Acacia on the rejoiner with you. So good to have you with us. And how about a little reminder here? There is plenty, believe me, folks, and believe us, plenty of racing to go around here over the next few days.
Yes, absolutely. So we are dark. Oh yes, we were dark on this past Wednesday. We started back here on Thursday, and we are just going through straight until Monday, January 1st. We'll be dark next Tuesday. So don't forget to join us. We have 11 races and all of those days coming up 12 noon post.
All right, fair enough. And the Rainbow Six begins. Again, we do have that carryover of about $450,000, some 20K maiden claimers on the turf. Ring in, that is, the opening leg. And what are we doing here?
All right, we'll give you a look at my ticket. I did go a little bit more expensive because we have that huge carryover this afternoon and nearly $450,000. Using 3 deep to start things off, I couldn't leave off the #1 Captain Kit with Marcus Vitale, 5 for 12 to start things off here at Gulfstream Park. Going to be using 2 horses. I am trying to beat the Cassie first-time starter time in motion, but I will use him on my ticket. Going 2 deep in the 8th race as well. 2 deep in the 9th as we continue to move along. That's a good maiden special weight. You have another probably Cassie short price favorite, and he's bankable. I'll also use the Roy Lerman runner empirically. Really interesting race. Interesting race with these hard-knocking horses in race number 10 too. I wanted to spread in there because you have the likes of Chiseled, Malguapo, just some really honest, tough-running horses. And then hopefully we get to the last leg. I'm going to use 3. You have the Mike Maker runner on the outside, switching back to the dirt. Wanted to include that one.
I did as well. She's taking a big drop. She has shown absolutely nothing in 3 races to date, but the Maker factor and the fact that she is taking a big dip in the class department and claiming level made me use her, and that is Bristol's Brook from the outside. Now, race number 6 begins the Rainbow Six again, and a little Dino dude who hasn't been my dude in the winner's circle. He's tried hard and he's been consistent. Is he back on his preferred surface today?
Well, I guess we will find out. We'll show that last replay as he was beaten just by the slimmest of margins. This was on November 26th, so this was actually 2 starts back for him on the turf. He switched to the dirt last time and he also finished second, but I thought he was so game in here with Street Code, who was a pretty interesting horse coming down to the wire. Good race from both of them, honestly. But Dino Dude has finished second in the last 5 races, actually disqualified from one of them, but always a bridesmaid type angle here.
He's always right there, though, and we respect and we like Dino Dude because of that. However, there is some other speed in the race. You would imagine the 12 Chief White Sox will get a very aggressive ride from that outside post, and maybe you get some speed from Mr. 66. So I'm going to keep it simple here, and I have 2 words for you, Marcus Vitale. Here's a little stat we have, and Marcus obviously had a very big weekend here throughout Christmas Eve and the day prior, Saturday, December 23rd, with 4 wins total. And this is just his Gulfstream starters over the last 30 days. And until he starts to cool down a little bit, I'm just going to start picking him a lot. And he's got the 1 Captain Kit from the rail.
And I'm so glad you showed this stat because you get to see that ROI too. I don't know if you're going to get quite as high prices as you have been getting on that barn, but
that ship has sailed.
That is certainly some big payoffs there. I landed on the 6 Family Justice, who does pick up Luis Saez. Big race from this horse on the turf last time. The barn has been going a little bit stronger than perhaps in the summer. So we'll give this one more try, even though he is over 15.
He's over 15, and I have chased him, including last time, and he got such a good ride. I thought he was going to win and just got out-finished again, but he should be right there, the Gray Family Justice. On to the 7th race, and I see you used a couple of horses in this 7th race to hopefully keep your Rainbow Six alive. This, to me, as we show you my late pick 5 on this sun-drenched Friday here at Gulfstream Park. This, to me, and I went 3 deep, and I used the likely 3 main contenders in the odds department. Doesn't this look like an absolutely loaded Florida-bred main special weight?
Yes, this is, I think, an anything can happen race.
No doubt. Now, Todd Pletcher, we already saw the move with Alcor taking a huge drop and getting claimed. He's doing the exact same thing with Slamey in race number 8. So he's the anchor in a $27 play that saw me use a couple. And I do think I would love to say, you know what, let me single a horse in the 9th and trim this even further. But I do think if you use he's bankable first time on the turf and the stakes tried empirically, it all but, unless something insane happens, it all but locks the 9th race up. Then you've got those honest horses rematching off the Claiming Crown Iron Horse. The last race worries me a bit because, speaking of an anything can happen type race, there's not a heck of a lot to go on with prior form in a gigantic field of 2-year-old filly maiden claimers.
And 2-year-old filly maiden claimers, you can leave it right there, and then you add in a big field, you add in drop downs and surface switches, and it's I like that you said cozy up to the all button.
Yeah, you may want to just buy that race and suck it up there and go for a few extra dollars just in case you do get there. You're guaranteed to cash. Now, Elk Camp, who's a former Fasig-Tipton graduate, has shown nothing in 2 races to date for Todd Pletcher. This horse in his 2-year-old sale that we had looked at going into his October 8th debut, and the quality on the female side of his pedigree, the breeze was too good, and there's too much quality with his siblings and even his mom for me just to give up on him. And maybe a case of Elk Camp not liking the Gulfstream Park, that very sand-based and very deep Gulfstream Park West Main track. I'm going to give him one more chance, and he'll be a much higher price than he was in 2 races in Miami Gardens. Let's pop the Uncle Mo first, and we'll bring up some bullets here with a very pricey $650,000 yearling purchase by Uncle Mo, who is out of a 16-year-old dam, but she's been an okay producer for sure.
Oh, she's been more than okay. She produced Grade 1 winner Dance with Fate, and as you said, 4 siblings are 6-figure earners, so certainly very good. Pedigree-wise, I took the wait and see. I don't know if you saw this stat as well, but 2-year-old first-time starters on the dirt maiden special weight at Gulfstream. Mark Cassie's 0 for 21 in the past 5 years, which I was shocked at.
Yeah, that is a little surprising for one of the best trainers in the country, who has one of the deepest operations and certainly deepest shed rows in terms of auction prices and talent. The 5 Black Pepper needs to be discussed. He's your top pick. I've got him second. And the fact that he was third, beating a pole, but he's coming out of that impact player projector race, and for my money, that may have been the strongest 2-year-old maiden sprint we've run this meet.
That's a fair assumption. I thought it was a very strong race. He's coming out a second time out. He's getting to a couple of stakes winner that were 2-year-old winners, and I was just so underwhelmed by Elk Camp in his first couple starts. Maybe I was a little harsh on him today, but I think we need to see a little bit more.
Oh, we definitely need to see a bit more. He'll be a price. He's a bit of a stab for me, but again, very intrigued by Black Pepper, and I'm curious to see how horses are going to do dropping out of that very fast and quickly run impact player race. Now, the 8th on the afternoon is a 2-lifetime, my own a 16th claimer, a bulky field for sure, but most are going to zero in on the horse, the number 11, who Acacia and I have on top, and Slamey, who's in for the 16,000, and much like Alcor, who dropped a few weeks ago for Al Shakab, and it cost a lot. They're just saying here, we want to win. He's likely going to get claimed today, and somebody else can try their hand with him.
And it's fair to look at and say, well, Dance Strike we're going to see in stakes competition tomorrow from Mark Cassie, certainly an up-and-comer. And Slamey really had an awful time of that last race at Gulfstream Park West. He was tossing his head in the gate. He was really not super comfortable braking on the inside, didn't really get the cleanest break. He was wide trying to close, kind of others passed him early on in the race. So certainly have to imagine second off the bench he could improve, and you're right, they're just putting him in a spot where he can win and perhaps get claimed.
And much like Alcor, likely to get claimed today for the 16,000. We hope he wins, and hopefully many of you will feel the same, because again, I think he's going to be perhaps the biggest anchor and centerpiece for the Rainbow Six and the late pick 5. As we continue on, and very much in our final turf race today, which is a rarity, goes as the 9th. We have an all-dirt late double, which doesn't happen too often around here, so it's kind of nice switching it up a little bit in that regard. And these are 2-year-old Florida-bred maidens, and it's either you want Empirically, who's kept some great company thus far as a maiden for Roy Lerman off a tough DQ in his debut right around Travers Day at Saratoga, or the first-time turfer, He's Bankable, who does have, to be fair, and I picked him, he's got more of a dirt pedigree, it seems.
He does. He's half the awesome slew. He's got some nice pedigree on the bottom side, but there were no winning turf siblings, and the dam was 0 for 7 on the grass. But certainly certainly a flashy pedigree. I watched that race back at Belmont in the AWOD last time, in the AWOD, excuse me, and he was widest of all, closing from last, like just way out on the other side of the track. So I really thought this was a horse they obviously thought highly enough of him to put him in a graded stake as a maiden after being DQ'd. Could be the right spot for him.
All right, Roy Lerman running that horse. He's had a quiet 2017. We'll see how he does taking on the Cassie juggernaut in race number 9 as we come up on race 10. Right, 2 dirt races to cap the card. Doesn't happen often here, and this is a good one. Not the feature by any means, but it's very easy to have an affinity for the types of just blue-collar, workmanlike, and very honest type horses you have throughout the mix. I think the pace is fast in here with Mal Guapo on the rail, number 6 Social Stranger chasing him. I'm hoping Salve, who ran okay last time out in the Iron Horse behind 2 Cuban brothers, can pick up the pieces here.
And he ran right behind Rich Daddy, who we're going to see in a tougher competition earlier on in the day. I kind of took the same tactic with Chiseled, who I thought was compromised by the post last time, gets Javier Castellano aboard, and just certainly an easy horse to root for.
Yeah, an easy crew to root for, but we're fans of Chiseled as well, who is just as honest as the day is long. Now, things get a little more murky and a little opaque here as we cap the card with race number 11. Big field, in fact, a maxed out field, a 2-year-old filly, 25K maiden claimers on the dirt. My guess, because he's so good as a long shot trader who can step up and really get a surprising effort out of a big priced horse, Antonio Sana with the drop down the 7 Bernarda, who, although she has shown nothing, she's caught 2 legitimate maiden races today. It's not like she ran in special weights. Maybe some of them are a little softer than others. She caught 2 legitimately good fields.
She did, and she had trouble at the start at both of her races. She reared at the start and then kind of took a turn and was also bumped around in her second career start. I took a stab with a trainer that just does a great job with first-time starters in maiden claiming, in particular in the 10 Dudacity. A 2-year-old by First Dude out of an unraced mare, some guesswork for sure, but we'll see if Dave Fox can get this one primed for the first start.
All right, and you're primed for Beat the Expert, right?
I am. I'm ready.
All right.
Showing off the muscles, right?
Show off the guns, just like Ronnie.
That's right.
All right, and speaking of Ronnie, we'll have him all day with us from the Gulfstream Paddock and Walking Ring. And the big man, Pete Aiello's coming up next with your Friday Scratches and Changes.